Hey, welcome to I Am Refocus Radio. Once again, we are here today, and man, just like any other time, we have a special guest today and an awesome show today. Today, man, we have I want to call him a legend, man, because when I finished reading his resume, it's very impressive. We have the one and only Jason Yarusi. He is a keynote speaker, a multifamily investor, entrepreneur, and a business coach. He has a lot on his resume. It'll probably take me a whole day to go through and do justice for his resume. So first and foremost, Jason, thank you for being with us today. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's really great to be here. Thank you for having me.
And I just want to dive right in because first thing I would want to ask you is when you chose your professional path, did you have any idea that it would be this massive successful?
Sometimes you're going towards something or you're going away from something, right? And so at a certain point in my life, I just wasn't happy with where I was, right? I was very upset. I had, faced some formative challenges during my younger years. I lost some friends to some unfortunate accidents. Had lost a girlfriend when I was 17 that I thought would have been my wife at the moment, right? And on that front, it set me to a point where I felt lost for a number of years. So went to college, got a finance degree just on a whim, and left school without any motivation to do anything with business or finance, right? I was just floating, right, as you would say. Moved to New York City, started working a lot of odd jobs, and working as a bartender, a waiter, just writing financial papers, just doing very weird stuff that wasn't inspiring to me, and it wasn't fulfilling, which was the bigger word. And with that leads to a lot of we'll say chaos, right? So if you're making chaotic choices, it gets you chaotic results. And one night I was just really unhappy with where I was in my life, and I was leaving the bar 2:33 in the morning, got on my bike, rode across Manhattan back to my apartment, and just out of nowhere a car came and hit me, and I went flying in the air. And so next thing I know, I get taken to the hospital, and got some stitches, got a broken shoulder, a pin in my wrist, and lo and behold, I get out of the hospital, and the only thing on my mind was like, I have to get back to the job I despise because I need to make money for rent. And I had this moment of pause where I was just like, listen, this is a crazy thought that I just had this very potentially tragic accident happen, and now the only thought in my mind is to get back to what was the thing I was trying to get away from. And I made a deal with myself at that moment that I was going to make some kind of change. And I didn't know what it was, right? And I'm sure, a lot of people listening today that they're stuck with something, right? They didn't know what it was, but I knew I was going to start trying something different. So it wasn't magically overnight. It was just little by little, I started to change and make almost micro habits, right? So start getting up earlier, start to have, start working out a set part, start not drinking at the end of the night, and just start doing things that were more proactive away from the negativity that I was basically putting myself up against day in, day out. And little by little, I started to change that scenario. So it got me from behind the bar to owning bars, owning a restaurant, owning and selling a brewery, to going out and running the family construction business, and helping scale my dad's small construction business, to one day, moving into real estate. And the move into real estate was that my girlfriend, now wife, was pregnant with our first child. We just were looking at our day, and we had no time. Like, we weren't in control of our time. I know, I can imagine people listening to this, they're going to work each and every day, and the day can run you, right? You get up, you're rushing to work, works, fires after fires, you get stuck in traffic on the way home, you just had a horrible day, you drink a beer and you watch Netflix and you're like, never again. And you repeat that day in and day out. Well, we were running this day that was, if there was 25 hours in a day, I could have used them. So I kept asking myself the question, like, what else is there? And I came upon this part of real estate where we buy apartment communities. And that was that moment where I looked at the process. I saw that I could put together this business with inside of a building, right? So the buy the building, right? With the building, I put together a full staff that can run the property. So I'm not the one doing the day-to-day operations, and I can manage the investment and put together basically the business thesis and the base business plan, and then look to ways to use others to push forward to execute the business plan. So we did that on one, and once, it's proof of concept. Once you do one and you understand it, works, well, then you multiply, right? And you multiply, and just magnify the events. And so we've done that now over the course of better part of close to a decade now. We've brought about a 300 million plus in real estate, mainly down here in the Southeast.
I love what you just said about when you find what works, you multiply because I can only imagine before all this massive success, you probably multiplying something you didn't want to multiply. So kind of touch on that for the audience when you made that transition with this opportunity to not just grow your business. Understand you did stuff with your father. What were some of the learning curves that you were taking along the way with this transition?
You know, your body and your actions are a mirror of where your mind is. So if you're surrounded with a lot of, we'll say, negativity or just lack, right, as you're growing up, right, as you're coming of age, and that could be just, based on what's the feedback you're getting, right? It could be just the schooling, it could be the family members, and it's not always the time that they're trying to bring negativity in your world, but maybe it's a small-minded event, or maybe they've had their own failures or their own setbacks, or maybe they're worried that something's gonna, if you try something outside of what they perceive as normal, that you're going to get hurt, right? So you have, or you're going to get, you're going to be disappointed, you're going to be let down, right? All these things that, parents potentially don't want to happen to you. So at a certain page, you have to start taking onus for your life and understanding how you're showing up and being self-aware, right? So if, there's an opportunity and your mind immediately goes to the negative, right? Immediately goes to what potentially could happen in the bad. Well, that sets you at a stage where you're not able to capitalize on opportunity because you're constantly looking at it of, oh, what if I do this? Then the worst thing's going to happen. But if you look at yourself and be reasonable with yourself and be reasonable with how you've gone through life, and that your all of your achievements have come from you going out on a limb, right? Even from as simple as you walking today, right? At a certain point, like if you doubted yourself as a baby, you would never have gotten up and walked, you would never have talked, you've never done all these things. But even today into your success, like you're at a job today because you've taken some initiative to get to that certain point. But to go outside of where you are, right? To go outside of where you are right now, the place you want to be, you do have to take that next step. And you have to take that part of, just if it feels too big, we'll take a smaller step. And my process is saying, okay, I have an ultimate goal, but the goal starts with that first step. And when you can build the confidence of that first step, because now it's not you trying to eat the elephant, right? You're trying to take one bite at a time. You take that one step. And what I've found is that all the answers I'm seeking is that it comes from me learning a better question. Because when I go to seek an answer, but I don't know the right question, of course, I'm not going to get the answer. And I spend so much of my life just asking why without really understanding what are the questions I should be asking. Because I can come on this show, right? And I can hear so much from you and your success, and you hear from so much from other people. But me asking the right question generates a wealth of responses that I can now use in my arsenal to go and propel forward to the next stage of my life.
Once again, listen to Refocus Radio, talking to our guest today. And man, you want to check out his website to learn more about his story and also his free resources to learn about his services. Go to jasonyarusi.com. And man, when you look at being a real estate mogul, if I can call you that, being able to have the staff that you were able to surround yourself with and massively scale up your business. Just a little bit teaser of info. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but success in acquiring over 3,000 apartment and commercial real estate units. Man, tell us a little bit about that journey from the very first one, maybe, and then just learning the ropes of the game. Like, okay, this is rinse and repeat for me.
Yeah, so surrounding yourself with like-minded people and people that are doing it successfully, right? And people say, "Well, I don't know anyone." Well, you have the wealth of the internet today. You have all these different places, all these different forums, all these different chats, all these different meetup groups where you can find other people that potentially are going down the path, so you can explore it and learn more. And so when I first started in real estate, we were doing various forms of real estate, right? We were doing Airbnbs, we were doing short-term flips, we were doing wholesaling, we were doing different models. But when I came upon the model of large apartment buildings, I put the blinder on to go all in, where I started saying no to all the various forms of real estate because I understood and I had that feeling that this was the right path for me. And so I started asking the questions like, who else was doing this and how were they doing it successfully? And I started looking at their models, right? And using their models, right? So going, seeing the model they do, right? Then rinsing and repeating of that model. Many times we want to create our own avenue, but if you look at lots of different paths in life, someone else has done this successfully. So instead of trying to always go and re-engineer the wheel, we'll just say, okay, what is a way someone else has done this? How can I use that and just repeat the steps? And so we started formulating the steps and just going through it, right? So saying, okay, they would choose a market, right? They would choose a different type of business, or we'll say asset, right? They would look at the really the drivers to that market. They would look at the type of building. They would look at what kind of brokers they need to meet, what kind of properties managers they need, what other pieces do they need? Do they need a real estate lawyer? They need an insurance person, right? And start to meet those connections. So they started building this team around you. Both that's the external team, and then your internal team. So on the internal team, it started out as my wife and myself, where we would find leads, find the opportunities. We would do the analysis or the underwriting of the property. We would look at making the offer and doing the due diligence on potentially the purchase of the property. We'd work on the closing with the bank, right, to put together financing with the property, and then also bring in investors for this, and then look at how we should set up a management plan for the process once we buy the plan. And when we understood those buckets, and then we had people around us as support, we could go back with the small questions that come up. Because you think about real estate, when you think about buying real estate, the big blocks are pretty much predetermined, right? I need to find a property, right? I need to find a team to go with it. I need to, find a bank loan, find investors, close the property. But the little questions, right? These little in betweens of, it could be anything like working to do your SEC filing, right? Or understanding different percentages with of how maybe your team is compensated, right? That may be hard to find online. But when you have other assets on your side, friends in your network, or other people that are on your team, right? You can go and ask those questions and quickly be back on track, because now you have all the power of the people that are around you as well.
When you look back and see where you started into where you are today, it took a lot of courage, commitment, and discipline to be able to reach these goals. For someone who is maybe in your industry and maybe they feel like they plateau, or if they just kind of slow down. I mean, it happens everywhere, but sometimes it can be self-inflicted wounds. Will be your advice based on your past experience that allowed you to get over those humps, and
Yeah.
what you can share with our audience?
So I would look back at what I was doing that elevated my growth, right? And then look at what I was doing today and see if there was any material difference in those two actions, right? Because many times we get very excited about something and we designate a block of time, and then we have actions, right? And we have certain actions. Maybe I'm making 3 calls a day to brokers. Maybe I'm underwriting 2 deals a day, right? And I was doing that, and now I am not doing that, right? I'm not calling out. I'm not expanding my market, right? I'm not underwriting deals. I'm not making offers, right? And so I feel plateaued because I've allowed the work of the business to come on top of me to cut out the core actions of what I need. For my side, we need sales, right? We need to basically find leads, and we need to go and raise capital from investors, right? So if I'm not doing those key functions of the business, either myself or my team, well, the business dries up and the business becomes at a standstill. So I have to look at the business and say, okay, are there actions that you can control that you were doing, or you're not doing now? And if you're not doing them, then ask yourself why. Has something come up? Have my interest changed? Have I not aligned? Because when you look at what you can control, you can quickly get back to those actions, right? You can't control the outcome. Like, so the outcome of buying a piece of real estate, you can't force someone to accept your offer. But what you can control is going out there, making a number of calls, going and underwriting the deals, going and making offers, right? You can control that piece of the process.
My next question for you is, I like what you said moments ago. You can control you. And what's so amazing about this show is when we get to interview all walks of life. It could be someone who's a school teacher, military, police officer, doctor, or it could be a multimillionaire. It could be someone who's massively successful. When you see the opportunities to just help people understand that if they apply themselves, that there is potentially light at the end of the tunnel. Like, everyone's situation is different, but when you understand the weight of that in the platform that you have today to be able to not just hold on to that massive way of success, but share it and enlighten people with education, you have programs that they can tap into. What are some of the things that our listeners can possibly go to your website and learn more about the resources that you have available that can really help them?
Yeah, sure. So you can go over to jasonyarusi.com. Happy to meet, happy to have a discovery call. We help people through, leadership and really just growth within themselves. We help them learn the process of buying apartment buildings, right? But what I found is, this premise of the show is focused, right? And with the world as itself, right? There's so much available knowledge right now that you take in so much each and every day. It's like we've had more information that's grown right in the course of the last 2 years than the whole before recorded history. So you look at that, you've just hit daily by all these incredible things that you can do. And you can do any of them, but you can't do all of them. And we get so lost in the shuffle of just being everywhere, but anywhere, that we lose really focus on who we want to be. And so we help craft a plan to say, okay, what are my goals? And then make a repeatable process that you can build upon to get there. Because what happens is that we don't feel fulfilled because we're looking at the goals, but we're not going after the actions. And getting back to the prior comment is that the actions are what we can reward ourselves with. Because if I said I was going to do something and I did it, right? I may not have the goal yet, but it's got me one step closer to the goal by doing those actions and doing those actions repeatedly day in, day out. And if your goal is to live a fulfilled life, to accumulate some level of wealth or get the perfect body, right? If you are on the path to get there, then what's the rush to be there? Because once you're there, you're going to live there for the rest of your life. So it's learning how to get there and then learning how to be the person when I do get there.
Everything that you're saying it just echoes keyword discipline. And for those who are massively successful like yourself, who have very demanding schedules, calendars always filled up all the time. What's your secret sauce when you make time for yourself, for your well-being of your mindset, mental health, and also physical well-being?
It's like on the plane where they say put your oxygen mask on first. Like you have to take care of yourself first. If you're not in control of yourself, then you can't really be reliable to help other people, right? And so you have to be in full control of how you're showing up and set the stage, really to set your foundation daily. I like to do that early, right? I say I get up early, take a couple moments for myself to go and meditate, to go work out, right? So I'm prepared mentally for the day because as we know, the day is just a full surprise of unexpected activities, sometimes positive, sometimes negative. But if you wake up in chaos, right? You wake up late, you hit the snooze button, then you're rushing to work, then you're stuck in traffic, then you're, yada, yada, yada. You spilled coffee on your pants. Well, the day is just constant, we'll say wildfires. And you just don't know where to react, right? You're just in a reactive state. So the more that I set the stage, just taking a moment for myself, just to set my base for the day, it allows me to have a clear mind to go after what I want during the day and then be prepared for unexpected things as they do come up.
And also, family we know is very vital outside of the outside community and our homes. What's some of the things that you try to pay attention to and focus on family if there's time and need to take a break from the busy world?
So the one of the most powerful things about, growing a business to where it is that I'm available to do the things I want, right? Many times we get so stuck where the business becomes us, but the business is not you, right? It's what you do, it's what's helped elevate to you, right? But the big part of this is that you want to be able to go nurture a life that you can look back on and be proud of, not only for yourself, but the ones around you. So I make a high priority to be present, right, in my kids' lives. I'm coaching two flag football teams, a basketball team, right? I go to their events, right? It's just it's part of what I've built my story into is that it's not, oh, when I have time. No, the time is me doing it. And then I make sure when I'm having or being here in the office, right? I'm committed to the time when I'm here, right? So sometimes we get so lost that we're at work, but we're just messing around, right? Well, use the work to the time you have with work to go and get things done so you can go back out and live your life.
Once again, listen, I'll Focus Radio. Go to our guest website, your, Yarusi.com. Again, that's Yarusi.com. Learn all about his free resources that he has. Learn about his coaching and all the amazing opportunity he has for you. When you take a look this year, I'm telling 2024 feel like it just flew by. Like
It did.
blink your eyes three times and it's almost Thanksgiving. And once that hits, it's Christmas and New Year's. When you look at the opportunities of how you can position yourself to be ready for 2025, as the year is winding down, what's kind of on your mind as far as like would you like to put yourself in a good position for the new year?
I don't think so much as the day of the new year. I look at them in quarters, right? And so I get back to those parts of the quarters and just even to the daily actions. So we have a certain amount of like from the business process, right? We look at acquiring one asset a quarter. Now, what that entails is that we're doing certain steps each day, each week, right? Each month that build us to be in a position to buy a property each quarter. Now, it's not magic, it's not perfect. We don't buy a property each quarter, but we do the steps where we might not buy a deal for one quarter or two quarters, and then we buy three the next quarter, right? So doing the steps, we prepare ourselves for doing that. From a fitness journey, I'm continuing to just change boundaries. So right now I've been working on strength. I was coming out of an age of working on a lot of distance running. So now I'm working on building into strength. So that takes a little revamp with my process, right? So if I look at that, I say, what do I want to do in this season, right? And with that season, then I prepare for those goals.
When someone's listening right now and they're like, you know what, this is a guy I need his coaching. And if someone wants to find out how they can learn about the screening process, make sure that they're a good fit for you and you for them, uh, what's some of the things that they can expect as far as processing, being able to get in touch with you, and that next step for the coaching experience?
Absolutely. So you go over to the website, you can fill out a form right there. We can get in contact. We can schedule some time to have basically a launch call, right? Just to understand more about what you're looking for and understand more about the services we provide. I like to do a tailor crafted plan to just help you along the journey, right? Part of what is my message is Live 100. I have the Live 100 podcast with Jason Yarusi. Part of that is that it's built on three foundational blocks of breaking your bad habits so you can build the momentum to magnify the success you deserve. And within there, each block has three pillars, right? So there's really 9 pillars that we look to serve to you, right, to help you along your journey. Because we find that no one's behind or ahead of where they need to be. Everybody is at the starting line. And that's where you are right now. You're present at your starting line. And from your starting line, we're going to build the steps to get you from where you are to where you want to be.
You've been listening to Refocus Radio, talking to our guest today, Jason Yarusi. Go to this website, jasonyarusi.com. In the last 3 minutes we have left with you for today, let's talk about the young people, because someone listening to this right now and they're like, well, geez, I wish I can be in his shoes right now. If you had to give your younger self some words of wisdom, what would you say on general level are some of the basic core building blocks that helped you be in position of your success today?
Keep being open to learning, right? There was a certain stage in my life where I basically shut my mind to want to learn, to explore. And for myself, I've gotten to this time, um, but it took me into later years to really say, okay, enough's enough. So what you're doing right now, you're listening to this podcast, right? You're going and you're trying to expand your mind, which is a perfect place to be, especially as someone who's young. And so be a sponge to learn new things, to find what's interesting in you, and then really build on that. Because what's interesting to you is that can have some form of a career behind it. Most of the times, like, when I was a young kid, I would have loved to play for the Knicks. Unfortunately, there are a lot of reasons for both athletically and others that didn't come to be fruition. However, if I double down on that goal, right, I could have found myself in some role, probably within the Knicks organization. But I really went for it, right, because that's what I love to do, right. So if I look back about what your dream is today, don't let other people crush your dreams. Your dream is something that not others are going to understand until you actually go out there and do it. But it takes you to do the actions to do it, to look validate to others. No one's going to give you worth for what you want to do. They're only going to see you as what you've done.
Man, that's great. This was a master class. So I hope people really appreciate this and maybe listen to this again. I mean, it's like just get those reps in if you're in the gym or something. So if you're skinny like me, you gotta hit those weights a little bit more, man. But first and foremost, man, Jason, just want to say it was a true pleasure having you on today. Uh, Amazing to have opportunity to learn from people like yourself who had massive success. I'm not saying to sugarcoat, but just to say, like, now every time you have the time to get people like you on off your busy schedule. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.